On Flashpoint today, the Friday night BELO debate. Here on the right, Mark Davis of WBAP Radio 820, and from the left, Rich Hancock of RationalBroadcasting.com.
Thank you, Brad. Well, the second gubernatorial debate among the Republican candidates for governor is in the books. Who came out the clear winner? Mark Davis.
Well, it's a tough call. I'm the Republican guy, so these are the candidates from whom I get to pick, and people like me. So, Rich, let's ask what the candidates had to do and how well they did. Governor Perry needed to protect his lead. I think he did. There were no mess-ups. He continued to give the Texas #1, and I'm a big reason why speech, and I think it worked. Senator Hutchison needed to give people a reason to join her out of the undecideds or out of the Perry base or the Medina base. Reasons to close that gap. I truly don't see how she did. And Ms. Medina wanted to look like more than just a worthy cult appeal Tea Party candidate, somebody who deserved every bit as much to be on that stage. And I think she did pretty well. And you and I were talking. You think she did pretty well, too.
I think she certainly showed why she deserved to be on that stage, but I don't think she really made the dent in what will be the regular Republican Party primary voters who are going to choose the next Republican nominee. The clear winner, however, I think is in question. The clear loser, Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison. I think Senator Hutchison really needed to show Republican voters why the incumbent Republican needed to be replaced. She did not do that. She did not defend her record in Washington. She did not defend her record in questioning the governor well. I think she looked somewhat lethargic, somewhat tired, and in fact, not as interested in being there as Deborah Medina did and Governor Perry did.
Well, then I'm particularly interested because from a Democrat perspective, you always ask a bunch of Democrats, and sometimes this is a media narrative as well, they say that no matter how the polls are going, that Kay Bailey Hutchison might be the strongest candidate against the Democrat. Do you think that's not true in this case?
I think it is not true, Mark. I changed my mind on that issue. I thought that Kay Bailey Hutchison would be a stronger candidate. At this point, I think Governor Perry, who I wouldn't vote for if you held Deborah Medina's gun to my head, would vote for him, but I think he afforded himself well as the incumbent Republican. From the left, I'm Rich Hancock, RationalBroadcasting.com.
Mark Davis. From the right, News Talk 820 WBAP.
Were any undecided Republican voters persuaded by what they saw and heard at the BELO debate? With the Capitol buzz today, here's Elise Hugh with the Texas Tribune.
Occasional laughter and disagreement could be seen in our small crowd of Republican voters. But after the hour-long debate, our focus group of undecided Republicans almost all picked Governor Rick Perry as the winner.
I was looking for something from Kay Bailey Hutchison, but I just didn't really see it. I kind of saw her almost looking down on the other candidates.
A Hutchison supporter remained.
I still think that she's more of a Republican than Rick Perry is.
Voters said they're cautious about Deborah Medina despite finding her somewhat convincing.
I like some of Deborah Medina's ideas, but I don't think that they're realistic.
Once she got into the position, she would find it a lot harder to make radical changes.
So half the group left the same way they came in, undecided.
I was hoping to see less pandering towards the far-right faction of the party, and I didn't see that tonight. I was hoping for some more moderate views.
Republican debates are now history, but these voters say they'll keep watching the candidates closely. That's it for Republican debates, but the Democrats will face off in Dallas on February 8th. In Austin with your Capitol Buzz, I'm Elise Hugh with the Texas Tribune.
We're back now looking at some of the highlights. Let's take a look now at Senator Hutchison on whether to scrap one of Governor Perry's favorite programs, the Texas Enterprise Fund.
The experts say that those companies would have moved here anyway for the Texas business climate. We don't need to spend $380 million. We ought to be helping employers stop the tax increases on employers.
Gromer.
One of her better moments, I think, in the debate. She was forceful, and she got the point across. And, of course, job creation is a big topic here in Texas.
This wasn't a bad issue for her, and she and Medina both tried to kind of hit on the point that this is kind of a slush fund for Perry's cronies. That was their assertion, but she wouldn't quite go all the way and say she'd do away with it. She said, well, I'd do it differently. So she equivocated a little bit there.
But she didn't say enough about how it had been mishandled. You had to have read the back newspaper stories, and Perry turned it right back on her and said, well, what about that bailout in Washington?
He does know the way to Washington better than anybody else. Who needs a Google map search for that? Okay, job creation, it's one of the centerpieces of the governor's campaign. The question to him was, how many jobs, private and public, have created in 2009?
90 to 95% of the jobs created were in the public sector.
So that people can that's
Well,
I know you're having trouble understanding percentages, Wayne. But I'm gonna give them those
Just give me a number. How many private and how many public jobs are you just not going to answer it?
Well, I've told you the percentage-wise.
Okay, the governor wanted to talk about percentages. We asked for a number. Unfair question? Should he have known it? What do you think?
No, it's not an unfair question. I think it's unreasonable to think that he would know it. And quite frankly, I don't think he wants to know that number, given the state of the economy.
But as part of his campaign, job creation.
It is, and I guess the question is whether he didn't know the answer or whether he didn't want to say the answer, because the answer did not reflect well on him. Texas lost a lot of jobs last year, so he wanted to kind of talk around that, throw a lot of calculus and percentages into the mix, and hope that you wouldn't notice that we were losing jobs.
I actually think this showed some of the discipline in his debate. He didn't want to give this answer, so he got belligerent and challenged the question.
Okay. Let's go on now to Deborah Medina, and this is something she did a couple of times during the debate, and that was she took after both of the incumbents.
Together, they're a team of economic tricksters intent on destroying our freedoms and selling Texas to the highest bidder. We deserve better.
This is a winning argument for her.
Well, when she attacks them like that, I do think it takes away from the credibility somewhat, because they see her as a bomb thrower, sort of, the third party candidate in a sense. I think she does better when she sticks to issues like, abolishing property taxes, even though it's an unworkable issue.
Really?
Well, I think you're right. I think this does resonate with some folks when she says, listen, they're both professional politicians. Whether you're fed up with Austin, you're fed up with Washington, they're really one and the same. I'm the person who's different in this race. And so I think that resonates with some folks because she is the outsider and she brings a new take on things.
But then she takes it too far and she says Rick Perry and Senator Hutchinson are bent on destroying the government. I mean, that, why would, who's going to believe that?
Well, I think what she does, she is able to perhaps tap into those folks who are angry, put a pox in both your houses, look at the mess we're in, and vote for me. I'm an alternative, which is part of her.
And that's what's going to happen over the next month. I mean, as Perry and Hutchinson bash each other, people might turn to her and say, well, maybe this one's not so bad after all.
Okay, this is the last debate they're going to have. Does this put it into a runoff?
I think so. The question is, how many votes can Medina bring to the polls? And if you look at the Ron Paul phenomena, I think she has a chance to get anywhere from 12 to 15%, a chance. And if she does that, it certainly is a runoff.
What do you think?
The question is whether Medina can build on this momentum that she's gotten in the last 10 days to 2 weeks. This was probably the last debate. She still has a month out there, so she needs to do something to keep building on some momentum. But at this point, I mean, she's made some inroads, and that may be Hutchinson's best bet to get to a runoff and buy herself some time.
But Ron Paul got 50,000 votes in Texas. If they all come back from Medina, she winds up with 12% of the vote. We've got a runoff, and we're back in April.
And we will be talking here in April. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us to talk today. We appreciate all your thoughts.